The night was colder than the boy had expected, the kind of sharp mountain cold that seeps through thin clothes and bites at the skin. He had no home to return to, no warm fire waiting for him, only the silent stretch of stars above, and the crunch of dry leaves beneath his worn boots. For years he had wandered from one village to another, carrying nothing but a ragged blanket and a heart heavy with loneliness. He was used to hunger, used to sleeping under broken wagons or beside streams, used to the way people turned away when they saw a boy without family or name. Yet this night, as the wind whistled through the pines, something different stirred in the darkness. He heard the faint sobbing, muffled by the sound of rustling branches, and when he followed it, he discovered a young native girl, no older than himself, crouched beside a fallen log. Her face was streaked with dust and tears, her braids tangled from the long journey, and her moccasins torn at the soles. She looked at him with frightened eyes, as if expecting cruelty, but the boy knelt slowly, offering the only thing he had: kindness. She had been separated from her people while crossing the treacherous mountain pass, she explained in a trembling voice, and wolves had already begun to stalk her path. The boy did not hesitate. Though weak himself, he wrapped his blanket around her shoulders, whispered that she was not alone anymore, and guided her carefully up the winding trail. The mountains were cruel, with jagged rocks and freezing winds, yet he walked ahead, shielding her whenever he could, steadying her when she stumbled. They shared nothing but silence and the determination to survive. Yet a bond began to grow with every step. The boy felt a strange strength rising in him, the kind of courage he had never known, and for the first time in years, his heart carried hope. By dawn, when the golden light spilled across the snowy peaks, they had crossed the hardest part of the trail. The girl, weary but safe, smiled faintly at him, and in that smile, he felt something he had long been searching for: belonging. He did not know that this single act of kindness, this choice to help when no one else would soon bring the sound of hooves thundering to his door and change his life forever. So, dear listener, if this story stirs your heart, stay with us till the end, and don't forget to subscribe, because what comes next will leave you breathless. The boy and the girl descended the last ridge together, their steps unsteady, but their spirits lifted by survival. The path narrowed between cliffs, and the sound of rushing water echoed from the valley below. The girl leaned on him when her legs weakened, and though his arms trembled with fatigue, he never let her fall. They spoke little, yet every glance exchanged was filled with a silent gratitude. By midday, they reached the edge of a small meadow where wildflowers swayed in the breeze, a rare softness in the heart of the harsh mountains. The boy led her to a fallen tree, where they rested and shared what little he had scavenged: a crust of stale bread, softened in water from a nearby stream. The girl smiled at his generosity, though she could see he was hungrier than she was. That night, as they camped beneath a shelter of pine branches, she told him her story in whispers. She belonged to a proud tribe whose people roamed the plains beyond the mountains. She had been sent with her family to gather herbs in the high valleys, but a sudden storm had scattered them, and in her fear she had lost the trail back. She did not know if her people still searched for her, or if they believed she had been lost to the wilderness. The boy listened closely, and though he longed to tell her his own tale of abandonment and hardship, he kept it locked in his chest. Somehow, it felt easier to carry her burden than to speak of his own. By dawn of the second day, the mountains began to fade behind them, and the land opened wide with tall grass and endless sky. The girl looked east, eyes shimmering with relief, for she recognized the landmarks of her homeland. Yet she did not wish to leave him behind. She told him that if he walked with her a little farther, her people would welcome him. The boy, hesitant, almost turned back, for he had never known welcome anywhere. But there was something in her voice, soft but strong, that urged him forward. Together they crossed the plains, step after weary step, until the smoke of campfires rose on the horizon. The boy's heart pounded. What if they rejected him? What if they blamed him for the girl's peril? But he held his head high, for he had done what was right, and deep inside he knew that courage must walk before fear. What he did not know was that in saving one lost girl, he had touched the honor of an entire people, and the echo of that choice would soon thunder like the hooves of 30 warriors at his very door. And as this journey deepens, dear listener, remember your kindness can change a life, just as his did. Stay with us for the next chapter, And if you want more powerful tales like this, don't forget to subscribe and keep walking with us on this path of stories. The sun dipped low, the border of her people's territory. Every sound in the tall grass made the boy tense, for he knew he was a stranger walking into a land where trust was not easily given. The girl sensed his unease and touched his arm gently, assuring him with a soft smile that her people honored bravery above all else. Still, doubt clung to his heart. He had known only rejection. Why would this time be different? As twilight deepened, shadows moved in the distance. Figures on horseback emerged silently, their presence both commanding and intimidating. The boy froze, his hand instinctively tightening around the girl's. But she stepped forward with confidence. The girl answered quickly, her voice trembling yet clear. The riders dismounted, surrounding them in a half-circle, torches flickering in the growing dark. Their eyes were stern, scanning the stranger with suspicion. But when the girl pointed to the boy and explained how he had guided her safely across the mountains, the warriors' expressions shifted. They spoke among themselves, some nodding with approval, others still wary. At last, one elder warrior stepped forward. His face was weathered, his hair streaked with silver, and his gaze pierced through the boy as if searching his very soul. For a long, tense moment, there was only silence. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, the warrior placed his hand over his chest, a gesture of respect. The boy did not know the meaning, but he felt its weight. They escorted him and the girl to the heart of their encampment, where fires burned bright and drums echoed in the night. Children ran to greet the girl, women cried with relief, and the people gathered close, whispering about the stranger who had carried her through danger. The boy stood apart, awkward and uncertain, but for the first time in his life, he was not chased away. He was seen. He was acknowledged. That night, as the tribe celebrated the return of their daughter, for the first time, the thought crossed his mind that perhaps he was no longer homeless. Perhaps he had found the beginning of a place to belong. Yet destiny had only begun to reveal its hand. For the next dawn would bring an event that neither he nor the people could have foreseen. A thunder of hooves that would shake the earth and bind their lives forever. Dear listener, if you feel the power of this journey, remember every act of kindness has ripples far greater than we can see. Stay with this tale and don't forget to subscribe, because what happens next will astonish you. That night stretched on with a strange weight in the air, as if the earth itself waited for something to unfold. The boy sat near the fire, listening to the steady beat of drums that carried across the camp. She laughed freely again, surrounded by her family, her small hands clasped by her mother's as if they would never let her go again. The boy felt invisible yet strangely content, for though no one had spoken to him directly, he knew he had done something that mattered. But tonight, even in silence, he felt a flicker of belonging. Still, in the deepest part of his heart, fear whispered, what if their gratitude faded when the celebration ended? What if tomorrow they turned to him and said he had no place here? The elder warrior, the one with silver hair, approached quietly and sat beside him. Then, in a voice low and steady, he spoke words the boy understood. A man's worth is measured not by where he sleeps, but by what he dares to do. The boy looked up, startled, and the elder's eyes were kind though fierce. You walked where wolves prowl and storms rage. You carried our daughter through the mountains. That is courage. Courage makes family, even where blood does not. The words struck the boy's soul like thunder. No one had ever spoken of him with respect. No one had ever called him more than a burden. He wanted to thank the elder, but his voice failed him. All he could do was nod, his throat tight with emotion. The elder placed a firm hand on his shoulder, then rose and returned to the circle of dancers. The boy sat frozen, replaying the words in his mind, until the firelight blurred into stars. When at last he lay down to sleep on a bed of furs offered to him, he closed his eyes with a strange new feeling in his chest. Hope. He did not yet know that by morning, his act of kindness would echo louder than the drums, carrying beyond the camp and into the hearts of 30 warriors, who would soon ride to find him. But fate was already in motion, and his life was about to change forever. So, dear friend listening now, if this tale has touched you, hold on tight, the storm is coming, and you will not want to miss it. Stay with us, and don't forget to subscribe, because the next chapter will take you beyond the mountains into a destiny that even the boy himself could never have imagined.